It won't
Nice
let
try.
it won't let me in unless I'm signed in as him because he's like the
Ah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I gotcha.
I have to add myself and then it'll be fine, but I don't know, forget it. Just don't let it confuse you.
No worries.
So how's it going? Can I help in any way? You want to test the polls or anything?
Nope, I just tested them out, so they should be good. Um,
Boy, it's like you
Lance Lance is already on here being a
is,
team player.
where is he? Oh, you can
He's
see who's on there.
uh I don't know.
Oh, is it just Lance? Did anyone else come on from your team, from the team?
Just Lance, and he can definitely hear us. That's great.
So we'll be quiet. He can hear us?
Yeah, it's fine. But I could play some music too.
Yeah, can't you mute mute the attendees until it starts?
Um,
All right.
but we're all good. I've got everything set up, so
Awesome. Okay. You don't really need me. I'll go on mute then.
okay. All right, chat disabled.
And then do you have like the speaker view on
Mm-hmm.
instead of the panel? I mean, instead of the attendee view,
Mm.
all the usual things.
No worries.
Raising my
All
hand,
right.
see if everything works. Only hosts and panelists can see the question.
I'm not sure where the chat. Lance is saying that. Oh, here we go.
Now I see the attendees. There's like,
There we go.
I wasn't able to chat a question, but I think that's because oh, Lance probably can.
Nope, it was turned off. I just turned it on.
Right.
We still had a monstrous 19 attendees registrants.
Uh-huh. I think
Uh,
maybe Lance made 20.
all right, all right.
It's not the size of the crowd. It's what you do with it.
That's right.
Okay. I'm on the struggle bus here with this ad.
We're gonna get started here in just like 2 more minutes. Appreciate everybody jumping on early here. All right. What is going on, everybody? Super excited to share some great insights with you guys today. As we know, it's the busy season for most of the contractors that we work with. And so as I was thinking about topics, I'm trying to come up with what's going to be really valuable. And so there are 3 strategies that we want to talk through about how you can maximize your peak season and maximize your results. And so we're going to go through some action items for you guys. We're going to have some key takeaways. I'll also have a couple complimentary gifts for everyone attending today that we'll be able to send over to you guys. So super excited. A little bit of background about me. For those of you guys who are not familiar, I'm the Vice President of Sales here at Sales Transformation Group. I've worked with contractors since 2011. So a long time, have helped a lot of contractors really grow their business on the sales and marketing side, primarily roofing, but also other categories, HVAC, siding, windows, and a few others. And so part of what we'll focus on today in our conversation are what are going to be the most impactful elements that we can focus on here for you guys. And one of the things that I've seen a ton on is speed to lead. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we qualify some of our opportunities. We're going to go through some really specific strategies that we have and what we found to work well for the 600 plus contractors that we work with. Second is we're going to talk about how do we create urgency in the sales cycle? How do we create the right follow-up structure to really be effective at maximizing those opportunities that we generate and that we were able to bring into the fold in terms of leads. So take those leads. How do we maximize them, really equip and give phenomenal follow-up? And then how do we actually coach and manage our team through this busy season? Far too often when we talk with contractors, they're running into, hey, things are busy. We're out. We're running lots of opportunities. We're running lots of jobs. And we haven't met as a team in a month or weeks. Well, then how do you know if any of these things are being followed? So we're going to talk through some specific strategies. I'm going to give you guys a meeting framework. I'm going to give you a couple other action items that I've found to really, really be successful. So first thing first, I want to set the stage a little bit as to like, why does any of this really matter, right? Why do things like speed to lead and follow up, why are they really important? Well, we're going to go through some stats about how quickly you need to respond to your leads and how that can really double and or triple your income just by following up with your leads quickly and the opportunities that are coming in. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then I think it's also really, really helpful for you to, and for especially for the leaders that are listening in here, for you to understand what appropriate follow-up will look like and what your team is really doing. So before we jump into some of these, I want to throw out a poll just so I've got an idea as to kind of the makeup of the team here and who we have. So I've just launched a quick little poll, and I'm going to tailor a little bit of the information. Tell me a little bit about your team. How many sales guys do we have? Do we have one? Do we have 2 to 3, 3 to 5, or 5 plus? And this will help me make sure that I'm giving you guys some really good guidance here. Okay. Cool. We got a bunch of 5 plus. Are awesome. Nice. We got some good sized teams in here. Phenomenal. Okay. I targeted the right approach here. Awesome. Awesome. Appreciate you guys jumping in there and providing that feedback here. So when we think about your sales team, one of the things that is generally pretty eye-opening for most of the contractors that we work up with is like, what is regular and consistent follow-up? What does it look like? And how does it actually impact the team? When you look at most of the stats that are out there, what you're going to see is that most opportunities are going to require a minimum of at least 5 follow-up attempts. And when I talk with a lot of contractors, quite frankly, most of them are not even close to 5 follow-ups. We might have 1 or 2 people that are following up with our opportunities, maybe 1 or 2 times. Maybe we give them a week and then we're kind of on to the next one. And so having the right cadence for follow-up is going to be really important. But how does it actually impact the overall business? Well, I want to go through a quick little math equation. We talk about this through our sales process. But let's say we've got a team of 3. So there was a bunch of people on here with teams of 5, which is great. But let's say we just had a team of 3. And then if we're dealing, I know most people on this on the webinar are probably in roofing, some commercial, some residential. There's probably a few other industries that are on here. But let's just take a nice round, even number of 6 deals, or excuse me, 3 deals, for 1 deal for each one of these guys, a $20,000 average deal size. That means that just having a week follow-up process and just missing 1 deal a month, right? If I've got 15 or 20 opportunities that my team is working, or if I'm generating those leads and I've got 1 deal from one of these categories, whether it's following up with leads, whether it's the speed to lead, could be costing me $60,000 per month. If we take that over the course of the year, we're talking about one of these problems potentially costing the business $720,000 in top line revenue. You know, if you're at 30% gross profit, you're talking about several hundred in gross profit and probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $100K in net revenue at the end of the year, if we're to run in about a 10 to 12% margin. So each one of these will hopefully, my goal is, how do I help you to capitalize on an additional $250,000? And so we're going to walk through some of these strategies. The first here is going to be speed to lead. And when we think about this, I want to talk through some of the automation. And by the way, if you guys have questions, I know I chatted a few of you, not everybody here, but if there are questions that come up or you've got specific things, feel free to just throw it in the chat. And then I have Lauren on our team, aka Ryan, who's here and can help kind of moderate some of the chat and engage a little bit. So when we think about this, and we think about speed to lead, and we think about qualify, part of what I encourage when we're working with a team is, 1, putting in place some sort of automation, whether you're using a CRM, whether you're using a tool like Job Nimbus, which has phenomenal for our residential guys, there's phenomenal automation, or you have another program like Dataforma or Service Titan is making a big push into the commercial space. There's some really good automation tools that they have in there, but something as simple as incorporating a quick little text into your lead flow can have a massive, massive impact in your overall conversion. And so I want to share with you guys some stats in terms of what we see. So this is some data that we gathered in preparation for this. And what we're looking at, we looked at 25,000 unique leads. We looked at a little over 250,000 phone calls. a little over 300,000 text messages. And what we found, the biggest indicator to your overall success was going to be the speed to lead, and specifically engaging within 5 minutes. It's going to 4x increase your results by you engaging in that lead within 5 minutes. And what I would really, really encourage, I'm going to talk through a couple examples here. I'm going to show you guys some stuff, is a simple text message. It's very simple. The way that we have it set up here, when someone goes in and they download a resource, they get a text message from me. It's actually my number. And it says, hey, I'm the VP of sales. I saw that you downloaded this. Or, hey, I'm the owner. I saw that you downloaded this. Or, hey, I'm the head of marketing, whatever the position is that you have. And I generally recommend having somebody from leadership, because that status is going to carry some weight, especially if you're a local business and you're doing, I know we've got my good friend here, Drew Pato, on the call. He's doing TV ads and he's got a ton of great content. His name is out there. And so having him be the person that's, hey, this is Drew, this is the owner, is awesome. And so that's going to add instant credibility, because they probably recognize his name or they saw his information. Additionally, what I would encourage is then I would add in 2 more questions. I would add in a question about some sort of a problem. Like, hey, I saw that you had requested some information. I saw that you downloaded this information about the insurance process, or I saw that you downloaded this resource around doing a tax deduction exchange for a commercial roof, something along those lines. Curious, like, what got you interested in downloading it? Or, tell me, a little bit of information, or give them maybe 1 or 2 different things that will allow you to get that person to engage. Something really, really soft, something really easy. Maybe it's something like, if I'm a residential contractor, I might say something like, hey, I saw that you requested this information. I saw that you reached out. Is this an emergency, or is this something that you're just gathering some information? So I'm instantly getting some qualification. If I know that it's emergency, then boom, I want to put that right to my sales rep, or I want to have somebody follow up, or I might even call them right now if I know that it is an emergency. We also looked at data in terms of like whether or not it's a female versus a male that's reaching out to them. So there was a slightly higher correlation there for a female person that's reaching out. So I have heard of organizations where everyone that reaches out is Sarah. If you're doing it over text, it's obviously a lot easier, but you guys can figure out how you might want to incorporate that. I do see a question in here around what would be some residential download lead magnets that you might have. So this would vary depending on the subcategory of roofing that you're in. So if I was in something like a retail market, I might have a slightly different approach. And maybe it might be something like, hey, here's this downloadable guide for the 3 things that you need when you're looking at your gutters, or you're looking at having a roof repair done, or things that you might want to ask your contractor before you hire someone. So I might have something along those lines. If I was in insurance roofing, let's say I'm in Texas, or I'm in Dallas or Denver, or something along those lines, I might have something like, hey, these are the 3 most important questions that you need to know about your insurance policy before having your roof replaced. That will probably be a really good converting one, because it's quite the gray area for a lot of people. And something like a free download, a free ebook will be phenomenal. Now, as I mentioned, I talked a little bit about some automation. Job Nimbus, good partners of ours. They've got a ton of great resources in their automation. If you have some specific automation questions, I'm happy to engage and walk you guys through what we've found to be successful. What I recommend is something super, super simple. So this is actually a screenshot from our system. It's, hey, I've got a status statement. I'm the VP. I'm the CEO. I'm the founder, whoever it is. I saw that you requested it. the lead actually comes back to my cell phone. I can see it. So I make sure that my team's following up with everything. And then for us, I have, hey, we might have some other content that might be relevant when you think about your roofing problem, your window problem, your whatever it is. Are there specific elements that you have questions about or you have thoughts? Give them 3 to 4 things that you might, if I was doing windows, it might be, are we, do you have older windows? Are you looking for something more energy efficient? Maybe it's solar. I've got a different direction that I would take there. If it's commercial roofing, I would have a different direction there. So I give them maybe 1 or 3 things. And all I'm looking for is really soft statements here to really bring that person out and get some engagement. So the way that I encourage setting this up, I have 3 individual texts that go out pretty quickly. They're all fairly short, basically 1 sentence that we've got, but they're separated. Don't do a long one. So do individual messages. If you send a long one, people just stop reading. But if I send 3 individual, one, it's 3 separate dings. So that gets people's attention. And then it's shorter, so people are more likely to read that information. Last thing, another pro tip here, you'll see down here, I've got wait an hour. If I don't get any response, they get another follow-up question mark. This also converts really, really well in terms of my conversion. So status statement, we might have some other content. When you think about this, what's a area that you're focused on? What's a problem? What's an issue that we want to address? Give them a couple options. You want to be the lawyer that's leading the witness, right? You want to give them a couple things. If we just ask people, what's something that you're, focused on, we're never going to get a response. You want to give them something super, super simple, make it as easy as possible for them to follow up with that opportunity. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you another pro tip here. Okay. So when someone goes in and they download our content, then we actually direct them. So this would be something you talk about with your marketing person. Then I actually direct them to a video. So this is Ryan Groth, for those of you guys on here that don't know our CEO. It's a nice little Loom video that we have that explains our process. Great credibility builder for you. So if I'm running a roofing business, I'm running a siding business, an HVAC, I might have a 3-minute, 5-minute video that explains what's unique about us and why someone would want to pay attention. If I've got a low cost lead that I've got out there that I've got on Facebook or I've got on Google or something like that, those are relatively easy for you to get your ads out there. And so because they're easy, you're going to get more people that are going to go through that. So what I want to do is I want to raise the status of those leads by giving them a little bit more content, getting them a little bit more engaged. So having something like this afterwards that they could then see to understand a little bit more about what makes you unique, then just gives you that extra edge. Okay. So I want to recap a couple of things that we talked about in terms of speed to lead. 1, contacting leads within 5 minutes. That's your key. That needs to be the standard that you set within your organization. Doesn't matter if it's 8 o'clock at night. Doesn't matter if it's 8 o'clock in the morning. 5 minutes, that's your response time. Putting in place automation is going to be your best friend. So text message it will be very, very valuable for you guys to implement. And something simple like a status statement. I'm the CEO, I'm the founder. Hey, what got you interested in this? And using that as your way to raise the status, get that person engaged, and drive those opportunities. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about creating urgency and follow-up. And so a couple things that we're going to hit on here are some questions that we've found to work really well at creating urgency, and some strategies that we found from a follow-up standpoint that I think are going to be really important for you guys to set in place as a standard within the organization. So one of the things for those of you guys that are not STG customers, I know we've got a wide variety on here. One of the things that we're really big on, and so I want to establish kind of the framework here, is qualifying opportunity. We want to make sure that you're spending your time with the best possible leads. And so the way that you're going to do that is through qualifying those opportunities, which will in turn help you to create more urgency in the sales cycle. So one of the things that we talk about when we focus on this is figuring out what the prospect's compelling reason is. Far too often when you're coaching your team and you're working with your sales guys and you ask them, well, hey, how did the meeting go? Oh man, the meeting was great. They've got this issue and we're going to be able to solve it. And they definitely want to do it. And they definitely want to buy. And then, we asked the sales rep like a week later, like, hey, what happened? Oh, I haven't been able to get a hold of them. They've been ghosting me, or, oh, they went with somebody else. And so part of what we want to do is figure out what that compelling reason is as to why they want to change. So I'm going to give you an example of this in a different industry. So hopefully kind of connects the dots. And then I'm going to talk about a specific example for in the roofing space. So one would be the situation, let's say I am selling gym memberships. And if I'm selling gym memberships and someone comes in, the likely thing that they're going to say is, hey, I want to see about getting a gym membership. I want to get in shape. That's going to be the standard thing that pretty much everybody is going to say. And it is our job to figure out what is the compelling reason? What's the trigger? Why is this person showing up to this event and looking at doing something different? Because in sales, at the end of the day, what we're focused on is getting someone to change from the status quo that they are to something different. And so what we want to incorporate and what we want to figure out are what are the questions that are going to help us to understand that. So an example like this, I might talk about, well, hey, so what has you wanting to get in shape, or what has you wanting to do something a little bit different? Oh, I've just, I wanted to do it. I just, I see myself adding a couple pounds and I just want to get back in shape at the shape that I was in when I was younger. Okay. Hey, so tell me a little bit more about that. What are you seeing that's happening? And well, I just started, eating a little bit more and not being as exercise, not exercising much and doing all this sort of stuff. Okay, well, hey, how's that impacting you? Well, I guess that the other reason was that my girlfriend ended up dumping me, right? Because I started to put on a little bit weight. I wasn't as active. I'm not, taking action the way that I used to. And so that is obviously a much more compelling reason than just someone who wants to get in shape. And people are going to give you their surface level reason, right? When you first start talking to them. But the deeper that we can get, the more that we can connect, the more that we build that rapport, and the more that we ask really good questions, that's what's really going to help us to open that up and get that prospect to engage. And so as we start to understand, and a prospect's probably not going to give you all that, right? The first thing that they'll say is like, oh, well, I'm starting to get out on the dating market, right? And so like that would be the next level. And then, oh, well, hey, so, what happened? Oh, well, then it's my girlfriend. So we're going to have to go through stages with our prospects. And it's not always going to be apparent as we go through it. But if we continue to work through that, that's what's really going to set ourselves up for success. And so if we look at an example here of how do we create a compelling reason, let's say we don't have anything. Let's say the prospects stonewalling us. They're not giving us any information. And we'll use a residential example here. Let's use a residential roofing example in this scenario. I am selling, let's say it's in an insurance market. Obviously, Denver, Dallas, Minnesota, all have gotten hammered. Oklahoma's gotten hammered. I think Arkansas even got some storms. The market has been crazy in terms of the storms here this year. Well, then it's like, well, hey, you know what? I'm just going to wait a little bit more. I want to see what happens with these storms, and maybe there's a little bit more damage, and maybe I can get a better structure or whatever. It's too difficult to go through this route. if we paint the picture for the prospect as to why they need to change now, let's give a very realistic scenario. Let's take Denver, Dallas, and Minnesota. Those markets, 2.5 years ago, you saw a, $1,500, $2,500 deductible. Year and a half ago, we probably saw 1% deductible of the home's value. This year, we're seeing 2%, 2.5% ACV contracts. So every year that a prospect waits, they're potentially getting not a small amount, like significantly less of a payout, to the point where we may be flip-flopping and the insurance may be covering the deductible. The insurance is going to give you like $4 or $5 grand, and the customer has to pay for the full replacement or a large percentage of that. And if that's happening in Denver, Dallas, and Minnesota, which are the three largest markets in the country, well, Mr. Prospect, this is what we're seeing in other markets. This is what's going to happen in rural Mississippi. This is what's going to happen in Atlanta as that market has grown exponentially for insurance. So I understand that you want to go through this change. I'm telling you, this is what we're seeing all across the country. It's a matter of time before it comes here. And so we want to get this resolved right now, as opposed to you having to come out of pocket $10,000, right? I bought a house in Florida in 2016. I had, I think it was like a $1,500 deductible or $2,000 deductible. I just looked at my insurance premium, 2.5%. And what's happened? Has the home prices gone down or they gone up? No, they've skyrocketed over the last few years. So now that deductible is even higher. So we need to understand, what are some of those questions. The other thing that's going to be really important for you guys is, as you're going through this, for our commercial contractors, helping to quantify the cost. We went through an example earlier. By your business missing one deal a month for each one of your sales guys, you could potentially be missing out on $750,000 a year. We can do the same thing in a commercial environment, right? What is that damage? What is the loss of production? How much is that actually costing that business? And so as we start to establish that, we start to arm ourselves with that information. That's what's really going to help us set ourselves up for success. And so one thing that I want to stress for everybody is, as you go through this and as you go through some of these content, you really want to work with your team to make sure that they are asking the difficult questions. Hey, honestly, one of my favorite ones that I don't see getting asked enough is, everyone that you deal with has different priorities, whether they're a homeowner or whether it's a business owner. They've got different things that are going on in their home. And so before I present my numbers, I want to ask the homeowner, hey, so scale of 1 to 10, like, how important is it for you to solve this specific problem, this specific issue, this specific challenge? If they say a 3, like 1 is the lowest, 10 is the highest, and this is a 3, I probably don't even want to spend my time with this person, right? There's way more people that I could be meeting with. If I'm in Denver or Dallas or Minnesota, any of those markets, or anywhere else, right? Like, we're busy. Everybody's running 12, 14-hour days, right? We don't have the time to meet with people that aren't ready to take action. And so understanding that would tell me how much time I want to spend with that prospect and that opportunity, right? So I'd really encourage you guys, think about what are some of those questions that you can incorporate. If you'd like some questions, just comment or direct message me in the chat. I'm happy to send you guys over some examples of some of the ones that we incorporate. One other thing that I wanted to share with you guys. So I also do a podcast here with Ryan, and I had Martin here, who's the head of sales for a company called Zero. Zero is a tool that records your salespeople's conversation. It's actually coming out this Thursday, 1:00 Eastern. And one of the things, I'm going to give you guys one of the big nuggets from the event, seems how you showed up here, is one of the biggest buying questions in the insurance roofing space is, do you cover deductibles? Which I was pretty surprised about when I heard that. I'm like, I wouldn't think, that to me feels like it's a tire kicker or somebody is looking for a deal. Like I would almost be kind of offended by it. But they said that that was consistently, far and away, the number one buying question. So I'd encourage you guys check out the podcast. They talked a lot about some of the data, some of the strategies, and there's some really, really good information there. So let's talk a little bit about follow-up and what our follow-up cadence should be. And so I'm going to give you guys a couple strategies that I found to be really, really helpful for you. And if you'd like a template on this, I'm happy to send it over to you guys. One of the things that I found is, one, if your sales team is not following up with opportunities, it is most likely because they are feeling like they are bothering their prospects. They're feeling like they are irritating their prospects. And so what I want to encourage you guys is, the reason why they feel that way is because they are focused on what is self-serving to them, as opposed to what is actually going to be helpful for the prospect. And so a lot of our content is focused on value add content that you want to incorporate. The sequence and the cadence that I would be looking at is creating a follow-up every 7 days. So following up with our pipeline every 7 days is what I think will really help you to be successful. Also, when you're incorporating this value add content, it's important for you to arm your team with resources. Don't let them freestyle this. Give them some direction. Hire a marketer, hire a content person, have some lady in the office write out some of that, or your wife help you, whoever, help out building out this process. But here's what I would encourage in your follow-up. You should have something of this cadence here. And I would modify this slightly if I actually designed this for a commercial contractor, but I think the cadence still applies for residential. The only suggestion that I would have is, if we're doing new construction or we're doing projects that are above 500,000 consistently, I might lengthen this a little bit long. But within 7 days, I would have some sort of why us value add email. So I have something to the effect of like, hey, here's why we're great. Here's why we're amazing. Here's why you should engage with us. 2, I would incorporate a phone call on that day. So this would be content that comes from the salesperson. I know most people in here do some form of repair versus replacement. If I ran a repair lead, I would have a repair and replacement email template. If I was in the commercial side of things, I would have like a service versus replacement option. If I'm just selling a replacement and not a repair, then obviously I probably wouldn't put in this. I'd have another version of this that I might incorporate. If there is a guarantee that you offer, something that's unique, something that we do, hey, we hand nail our shingles, or we've got, the catch-all, or we've got whatever the special kind of secret sauce is that you guys incorporate, I would have something along those lines about your guarantee or about your specific value add component. I would definitely have a visual graphic of your installation process. Here's what's going to happen. You sign your agreement. This happens. We have the conversation with insurance, or we get handed off to your project manager. They're going to call you on this day. We're going to schedule your install. We're going to do a pre-walkthrough. Everything that makes that customer feel really confident and comfortable that you guys are going to take care of them. I'd have another phone call that's part of that. I would absolutely. I think Drew's got a couple really, really great videos of some content of some projects that he's done. I would have some video projects that you guys have done, some drone footage potentially if you have, even if you're fairly early on, you can get a relatively inexpensive drone for a couple $100, or even paying somebody probably 500 to $1,000 to have this sort of value add content is going to be really, really powerful for you. And then last, I would have some sort of message from the CEO or the founder. Hey, this is why I started the company. I'm here to take care of you. I'm here to help you. I generally like putting the owner's cell phone number in there as well. Not that I would expect a significant number of phone calls, but it just shows an additional level of confidence in that, in you and in what you're, providing to the marketplace. I've also seen, if we want to get more complex down the road, like you could multi-thread. So if I've got a salesperson, and I know we've got a lot of people with 5+ salespeople on the team. So if this is all coming from a salesperson, then I might weave in a sales manager call or a sales leader email out to the prospect as well, because I think that's also going to be really, really powerful for you guys. I do have a giveaway for everybody here, which is we have a complimentary ebook on sales leadership. And we've got a great, great resource here. Ryan and I actually personally worked on this. And we've got a ton of action items that we've put some time in. If you go ahead and scan this with your phone, I will send you guys over a copy of this. And it's a really, really great resource. While we're doing that, there's a couple questions that popped up here. In terms of your, there's a follow-up question in terms of like lead flow. When you're looking at leads, how often should you follow up with those before you kind of write them off? And this is actually a really good point. Great question there, John. Is when you look at leads, what I found to be pretty consistent across multiple industries is that you need to engage with a prospect about 8 times, somewhere between 8 and 12 times when a lead first comes in. You are, based on what I've seen, and I'm looking at probably about 100,000 calls personally that teams I've run have done this. 94% of your leads are going to convert within that time period. So I'd really, really encourage you guys, make sure that you've got a follow-up cadence that's going to be at least 8 calls long. Okay. I saw there were a couple people that had some issues if they were on their phone. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to launch this other poll. If you would like me to send this over to you, go ahead and just click yes. If you'd like me to send it, it's for a sales and recruiting analysis. We do a private webinar, but if you're on your phone and you can't scan this because you're watching it on, just go ahead and click this and I will make sure that I send it over to you guys afterwards. Cool. Appreciate that. All right. Awesome. Awesome. I guess a bunch of people were on their phone. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna leave that up there for one more second here to give any last people. And what we're gonna focus on here, the last element that I want to touch on is, okay, we've talked about our follow-up cadence. We've talked about our creating urgency questions. We've talked about our speed to lead templates that we want to incorporate. And now we're going to talk about, all right, we've made those changes. Now, how do we actually hold the team accountable to it? And so part of what we want to shift everyone's mindset around is the environment and just the concept in general of coaching. And how do we effectively kind of lead our teams and manage them? And I've given this story maybe a couple times in some of our sessions. but there's a awesome Netflix documentary on the Redeem Team. So for those of you guys who are not familiar with the Redeem Team, we have Michael Jordan in the Dream Team. Allen Iverson just did a terrible job, ended up losing in the Olympics. And then we had Kobe Bryant, we had Dwayne Wade, and we had LeBron James, and they were part of the Redeem Team. And so part of what was really interesting within that team is that they go through this example. I think they were playing somebody in that was in like Thailand or something, maybe it was Thailand or something like that, Philippines or something. They beat this team. And so, you know, LeBron, Dwayne Wade, everybody, they go out and they go party. They're going out there in the club. They're popping bottles. They're living their best life because they just won this game. And they get back at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And when they get back, they see somebody sitting down, lacing up their shoes, like that's in a full sweat. And they're like, who is this? Of course, it's Kobe Bryant. He'd already been working out for an hour plus in the weight room, and now he was going to shoot. And so LeBron and Dwayne Wade is like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are you out here? He's like, dude, we haven't won yet. We're just getting started. We barely beat those guys. And he ends up going out there. LeBron and Dwayne Wade end up, you know, saying, we're not going to let, you know, Kobe show us up. So the next morning they come down and they work. And that shift really transformed the team. And so the reason why I bring up this example is because it wasn't Coach K who changed the team dynamic. It was actually Kobe. It was the captain. And so I want you guys to think about, when you're thinking about how do we coach, how do we incorporate, how do we support our team? Who's the captain on your team that's not in leadership, not a sales manager, but who's setting the pace? And what I want you to do is I want you to speak positivity into them. We have a lot of different content and resources from some of the great coaches and leaders that are out there. Nick Saban obviously just retired here in the last year. And one of the things that was really interesting is how he coached his team members. Because you would think, like, you know, they've got the best, arguably the best. I'm sure there's probably some people that think otherwise, but arguably the best college football program. And they have just consistently churned out winners. And it's like, well, is you know, Nick Saban, is he just like beating these guys into submission? Is he just like riding every single thing that they're doing, make sure that they're perfect? Well, what he does is he actually speaks positivity into them. He says, hey, I recruited you because you're one of the top recruits in the country. And here we only have the top recruits here at Alabama. And so help me understand why you're not playing like the top recruit that I brought in here. So he doesn't say, you did terrible, you dropped the ball, run a left. He doesn't do that. He speaks positivity into it. And that's one thing that I want to really, really encourage you guys. I actually just shared something the other day that was spiritual and marriage related, which was speaking the same thing. It was, you know, a wife was talking about her husband, and she said that there are two sides. There's a fool and a king. And whoever you speak to more is going to be the person that they are. So do you want to speak to the fool or do you want to speak to the king? Having that same mindset with your team is going to transform the organization. And so what I want to really, really encourage for everybody is when you think about your team and you think about coaching them, it's really speaking to that positivity within the organization, speaking to the sales rep, it's speaking to who they are, maybe not necessarily who they are at this exact moment, but who you want them to be. And that's what I want to really encourage you. That's what real leadership, that's what real coaching looks like. And so when you think about management, one of the other things that, you know, we want to speak positivity, but we also got to, and we want to trust our team, but we also got to verify. We got to trust, but verify. And so one of the things that I want to encourage you guys are, what are the KPIs that you're tracking? What are the things that you're following up with. And I'll give you guys some real examples here, right? We track things like how many referrals, how many doors knocked, how many opportunities did we run, how many appointments did we run, and looking at that data every single week to understand how each person on your team is performing. And it could be something as simple as like what I've got in here, which is this Excel sheet that we use as a tracker for all of our clients. Making sure that we're incorporating that into our business and really setting those processes in place is what's going to help you to really elevate your team. And I was watching a video. I don't know if anybody follows here, Alex Hermosi, ton of great content, a lot of great information. And one of the things that they did a leadership Q&A. So naturally, I was kind of curious what they had. Seems I'm talking about the same thing here this week. And what the person saw is they said, hey, every week I ask my team to send me this information and I do really good for like 6 weeks. And then I kind of stop looking at it and then they stop sending it to me. And so I get into this cycle, I get into this challenge, I get into this issue of like us being delivered on it. And Layla Hermosi, his wife, says, yeah, it sucks. And you have to spend the time actually looking at the content. Like everybody here is like, hey, how do I make this thing? And I've fallen victim of it too, right? I ask my team to send me a recap. I don't always look at it. And then I wonder, why are they not sending me the information that I'm asking for? Well, it's because I'm not being a leader and I'm not actually reviewing it and providing them comments. Hey, what's stopping you? What's holding you back from this? What's holding you back from growing in this area? Or what's holding you back from generating these results? Or why are we not doing the things that we need to? And the cold hard facts, everybody, is you got to do the work. Just like I want my guys to go out and knock doors, or I want them to make phone calls, or I want them to prospect. I've got to be the leader that looks at that data, gives them feedback, gives them guidance. That's what being a leader is all about. And so as you're looking at how do I effectively manage, yes, having tools, having a sheet, having a CRM, all going to be helpful. The reality is you've got to spend the time. You got to carve out, you got to block some time off on your calendar. Say, okay, if I'm asking my team to do this thing, I need to spend X amount of time actually looking at it and giving them comments and feedback. And if you continue to focus and you continue to drive that, I guarantee you're going to start to see better results. Okay. So when you're thinking about your team meeting, here's one other pro tip that I want to give you guys as a takeaway. At the end of your meeting, have everyone in the company or everyone at in the meeting rate the meeting on a scale of 1 to 10. Then ask them what would have made it be better. What would have made it a 10? That's going to give you real insight in terms of what do your people want to see more of to make those meetings more effective, to make sure that people show up on time, to make sure that we're building and we are encouraging and we're supporting our team. So I just want to highlight a couple of things that we touched on here. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to throw in some questions. So we talked a little bit about speed to lead, following up with your leads within 5 minutes. That's one of the keys. We didn't touch on this, but there's a question that came up. 8 touches or engagements with a new lead before we give up on it. That's going to maximize your conversion. Creating questions that are going to create urgency throughout the sales cycle is going to be key for you guys. What are the things that we want your team to ask that's going to create urgency? And if you need some examples or you need some suggestions, we're happy to send it over to you. Having the right follow-up cadence. I'd recommend at least 2 months that you're following up with those opportunities before you throw in the towel. Email every single week, value add content that you're sending over to them, helping to build that credibility and maximize your return. And you should be incorporating that within your follow-up sequence and your follow-up tools. And then we talked about coaching. Speaking to the fool or the king. Who do you want to show up every day, right? Speak to the king within your team. Speak to the king within your sales reps. Speak that positivity and allow them to rise and elevate. And then look for that team captain. Who's the person that's going to lead there? You're not going to be in all places at all times. Who can we really rely on? So if there are any questions, I will give you guys the opportunity to raise your hand and I will unmute you. And